Stop crying, Elsa. Your father will be back soon, and he'll see what kind of little girl you really are. The sharp voice, followed by a slammed door, echoed from the second floor of the mansion. It froze Diana in her tracks. She had just stepped into the grand foyer of the estate, handbag in hand, uncertain whether to move forward or turn back. That wasn't just any child's crying. It was the kind of sobbing that scraped the soul. Raw, breathless, desperate. "Here we go again," came a voice from behind her. Maria, the housekeeper, stood at the side entrance wiping her hands on a cloth. She had been in the house long enough to recognize that kind of tension. "Is she crying?" Diana asked, already knowing the answer. Maria nodded with a tired sigh. "Elsa. Again. Poor girl probably got shouted at. For something or nothing at all. Mrs. Rachel's in one of her moods. And Mr. Jimmy? Still away on business, of course." Diana's eyes wandered up the staircase where the echoes of that crying still lingered like ghosts. "She has a name?" Diana asked quietly. "Elsa. She's 7. Has Down syndrome. Her real mother passed away when she was just a baby." Diana's hand tightened around her purse. No one had mentioned a child when she accepted this job. Certainly not one so vulnerable. But now, hearing those muffled sobs, something shifted in her chest. "Are you okay?" Maria asked gently. "I will be," Diana said, her gaze still fixed upstairs. "Once I meet Elsa." She began to climb, one step at a time, following the fading sound of the child's pain. At the top of the stairs, the hallway stretched wide, filled with expensive silence. Then the bedroom door opened. A tall, blonde woman stepped out, adjusting her earrings with the coolness of someone stepping off a fashion runway. Her perfume lingered like too much sugar in the air. "You must be the new maid," Rachel said, flashing a tight smile. "Good. I have an errand. The girl's having one of her tantrums. She'll quiet down eventually. She always does." Her voice was light, but there was an edge to it, like the tinkling of glass just before it shatters. "She'll be fine," Rachel added with a dismissive wave. "Tends to exaggerate." With that, she descended the stairs, heels clicking confidently. A few seconds later, the front door closed behind her. The mansion fell quiet, except for the lingering, broken sobs behind the bedroom door. Diana knocked gently. "Hello, sweetheart. May I come in?" The crying slowed, ever so slightly. "I'm not here to scold you," Diana added softly. "I promise." She opened the door slowly. The room was large but cold, like it had been decorated with everything except love. On the floor, near the window, a small girl sat curled into herself. Brown hair tangled over her face. Knees pulled tight to her chest. Tear trails marked her cheeks. Diana crouched down. "Hello, my dear. What's your name?" The girl looked up, wary. "Elsa." Diana smiled. "That's a beautiful name. I'm Diana. Why are you crying, Elsa?" The little girl pointed to her stomach. "It hurts. You're hungry, aren't you?" Elsa nodded. "When was the last time you ate?" "I haven't." Rachel forgot. Diana glanced at the clock. 1 in the afternoon. Not even breakfast? Her heart twisted. "Come on," she said, holding out her hand. "Let's go find you something tasty." Elsa hesitated, then slowly placed her tiny hand into Diana's. It was warm and trembling. Together, they walked toward the kitchen, hand in hand, leaving behind a quiet room that had, just maybe, started to feel a little less lonely. The kitchen was spotless, but it had the sterile feel of a space rarely used with love. Diana began preparing something simple, scrambled eggs and toast, while Elsa watched from a stool, her small legs swinging. "How many slices of bread have I cut?" Diana asked, holding up the loaf. Elsa squinted. 2. "Very good." A small smile touched the girl's lips. Praise, it seemed, was rare currency in this house. "Go ahead and eat," Diana said, placing the plate in front of her. Elsa devoured it with the desperation of someone who'd learned not to expect the next meal. "You good?" Elsa said between bites. "You good?" Rachel bad. Diana froze, her hands still on the counter. The way Elsa said it, like it was just a fact, like she'd already decided who deserved trust and who didn't. "You're a beautiful and smart little girl," Diana said quietly. Elsa looked up, eyes locking onto hers. And just like that, a thread of trust was tied between them. After lunch, Elsa showed Diana her toys. The room was large but chaotic, like no one had ever helped her sort anything. Dolls lay buried under books, and crayons rolled freely across the floor. But Elsa didn't mind. She began showing Diana picture books and naming colors. Blue, red, yellow. Excellent. Diana said. Do you know more? Pink, green, purple. Elsa grinned. That grin, so full of pride and innocence, made Diana's heart ache. The joy was short-lived. The sound of the front door opening froze Elsa mid-sentence. Rachel was back. Heavy footsteps climbed the stairs. Diana moved instinctively between Elsa and the door. Rachel appeared in the doorway, her eyes narrowing. Elsa, did you eat? Elsa nodded, shrinking. Who gave you permission to eat? She was hungry, Diana said calmly. So I made her a small plate. Next time, ask me first, Rachel said sharply. Elsa has a set eating schedule. If she eats now, she won't eat later. She walked toward Elsa with a forced smile. Isn't that right, sweetheart? Elsa didn't answer, just looked between the two women. Now sit still so Diana can do her job. As Rachel walked away, Elsa leaned in and whispered, she bad. She hurts. Diana's heart thudded. How? She asked quietly. How does she hurt you? But Rachel's footsteps echoed back down the hallway, and Elsa quickly pretended to play. Later, Rachel returned, this time with a new order. Elsa, put all your toys away. Such a mess. Your father doesn't like disorder. Elsa scrambled, fumbling with the blocks. One dropped with a clatter. See? So clumsy. I'm sorry. I'm so useless. Rachel grabbed Elsa's arm with unnecessary force. Red marks bloomed beneath her fingers. Don't be slow. And stop crying. Your father doesn't like girls who cry. Diana bit her tongue, so hard she tasted blood. She knew, one wrong word, and she'd be dismissed. And then Elsa would be alone again. When Rachel finally left, Elsa sat in silence. Diana knelt beside her and gently pulled up the girl's sleeve. A red imprint glared back at her. It hurts. Diana wrapped her arms around the child. Elsa, if someone hurts you, can you tell me about it? Yes, but Rachel says I can't. Why not? She said if I tell, Daddy will give me away. The words knocked the breath from Diana's lungs. He won't, she whispered. He loves you. You are his daughter. Elsa blinked. Does he really love me? The question shattered something inside Diana. How could a child not know? Of course he does, she said gently. Elsa picked up a piece of paper and some crayons. She began to draw. When she finished, she showed Diana the picture. Two figures, one tall, one small. The smaller one sat on the ground, crying. Is this you? Diana asked. Elsa nodded. And this? Diana pointed to the taller figure. Rachel, Elsa whispered. Diana folded the paper gently and tucked it into her handbag. Someday she might need it. The next morning, Diana arrived to find Elsa sitting on the staircase, still in her pajamas. Her little legs dangled above the marble floor, her fingers nervously twisting the hem of her nightgown. My dear, why haven't you changed? Diana asked gently. Elsa looked up, her eyes hollow. Rachel didn't wake me. Did you eat breakfast? The child shook her head. From the living room, Rachel's voice floated out, bright and falsely sweet. Jimmy, darling, everything's fine. Elsa slept beautifully. She's already had breakfast and is playing now. So full of smiles lately. Yes, I'm taking wonderful care of her. Diana clenched her jaw. Lies flowed from Rachel as effortlessly as perfume. Rachel ended the call and, with no change in tone, snapped toward the stairs. Elsa, come down right now. Startled, Elsa stumbled down the steps, nearly tripping on her oversized pajamas. Why haven't you changed? It's already past time. You didn't wake me. I'm not your nanny. Learn to take care of yourself. You're not a baby. Elsa lowered her head and crept back upstairs. Diana followed. Need help? Elsa nodded silently. Together, they picked out a yellow dress with flowers. Diana helped her button it up, brush her hair, and slip on socks. Then they went to the kitchen. Scrambled eggs? Elsa's eyes lit up. Yes, please. As Diana cooked, she caught Rachel's voice again, this time drifting through the garden window. Mother, I can't do this anymore. Every time I see that girl, I remember what he did. He had her with another woman, and while I lost my baby, she lived. It's not fair. Diana froze, her hand still on the spatula. Rachel's voice lowered but remained venomous. I know it's not her fault, but now she's getting clever. She's speaking more, and Jimmy will notice I haven't been caring for her properly. Maybe it's time to send her away, to one of those special schools far from here. A nice, quiet boarding school. Then Jimmy and I can finally have the family we deserve. Diana's stomach twisted. Rachel didn't just dislike Elsa. She wanted her gone. When Rachel returned and found Elsa happily eating eggs, her expression twisted. Did I say you could eat again? You know better than to snack before lunch. She was hungry, Diana said. Hunger is not an excuse to break rules. Elsa needs food, Diana replied. Regularly. Rachel's smile turned brittle. Finish eating, Elsa, and go to your room. Diana, we need to talk. When Elsa had gone, Rachel leaned against the counter like a queen annoyed by her subjects. Look, she said. I know you think you're helping, but you're confusing her. She needs structure. Rules. Not coddling. You're a maid, not a therapist. I understand, Diana replied. Good. Keep it that way. That evening, Jimmy returned from his business trip. He was tired. The kind of tired that sits behind the eyes and doesn't leave. But then, a small voice floated from the kitchen. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. It stopped him in his tracks. He stepped quietly to the kitchen door. There was Elsa, legs swinging as she sang through bites of a sandwich. Diana sat across from her, gently clapping in rhythm. Rachel hovered in the corner, frowning. Daddy. Elsa saw him and ran. He bent down, speechless. You're singing? Elsa nodded proudly. Diana taught me. Diana stood, offering a modest smile. She has a good ear. I just sang along. Jimmy looked at Rachel. You said she didn't like music. Rachel shrugged. Maybe she's just mimicking. The word stung. Elsa's shoulders slumped. Diana moved closer, her voice calm but firm. Her name is Elsa, and she's not mimicking. She's connecting. Jimmy didn't reply, but his eyes lingered on Elsa longer than they had in months. That night, Jimmy reviewed the house security footage. He'd never watched it before, but something Diana said had stayed with him. He saw Elsa laughing as she colored, running in circles with a teddy bear, Diana tying her shoelaces, Diana hugging her after she fell, feeding her, listening. He fast-forwarded through Rachel's cold reprimands, the ignored cries, the dismissive looks. It all unfolded like a documentary he hadn't wanted to see, until now. The following day, a storm was brewing. Not in the sky, but in the house. Maria leaned in while polishing the banister. Mrs. Rachel was up at dawn, pacing, digging through drawers like a woman on a mission. Diana's stomach dropped. At noon, just as Jimmy stepped through the front door, Rachel marched out of his office, holding a luxury wristwatch in her hand. Do you know where I found this? She asked, her voice smooth but dangerous. Jimmy looked at the watch. That's from our Singapore deal. Rachel held it up. Found it in Diana's drawer. Diana, just entering the hallway, stopped in her tracks. I didn't take anything, she said, steady. Rachel gave a sharp laugh. Oh, then how did it get there? Before Diana could respond, Rachel raised her voice. Elsa, come downstairs. The little girl appeared at the top of the stairs, clutching the railing, looking confused. Rachel knelt to her level, smiling too wide. Sweetheart, remember the shiny watch? Did you see Diana with it? Elsa looked at the watch, then at Diana. Her lower lip trembled. Rachel leaned closer, whispering, just loud enough for Elsa to hear. If you don't say yes, Diana will disappear forever. Elsa hesitated, then nodded. Yes. A silence heavier than truth itself filled the room. Diana exhaled, hurt but not angry. She understood. I didn't do it, she said, eyes locked with Jimmy's. But if you need me to leave so Elsa stays safe, I will. Rachel smirked, triumphant. Diana crouched beside Elsa. It's okay, sweetheart. I know you're scared. I'll still be close, even if you can't see me. Elsa's tears started, but she didn't speak. The door closed behind Diana. Without her, the house turned cold again. Elsa no longer sang, no longer smiled. She avoided eye contact. Her drawings disappeared. Her voice dimmed. Each night, Jimmy knocked gently. May I come in? Elsa would shake her head and curl into bed, hugging the teddy bear Diana had given her. Once, he heard her whisper, Diana, come back. That whisper shattered him more than any scream. One afternoon, in a moment of rare clarity, Jimmy found a crumpled drawing in the trash. 3 figures. A tall man, a small girl, and in between, a woman, her face scribbled out in black crayon. She had tried to erase Diana, but couldn't. He took Elsa to the park. She sat on a bench, clutching her bear. You miss her, don't you? Elsa didn't reply, just hugged tighter. Is there something you haven't told me? One tear slipped down her cheek. Stepmom said if I didn't say yes, Diana would disappear forever. Jimmy's heart broke. That night, he returned home, his face unreadable. Rachel was on the couch, flipping through a magazine. You lied, he said simply. She blinked. Excuse me. You made Elsa say something that wasn't true. She's just a child. Who's going to believe her? I do, he said. And I don't need more proof. He called security. Get her out. Rachel screamed. Threatened lawyers. Sobbed. But the gates closed behind her anyway. Elsa watched from the window, her small hand pressed to the glass. I'm sorry, she whispered. Jimmy picked her up. No, sweetheart. I'm the one who should be sorry. The next morning, Jimmy drove across town. Diana opened the door, her hair tied back, eyes wary. Jimmy, I need you to come home, he said. Not to clean, to be with Elsa. And with me. Diana blinked, stunned. Are you sure? For the first time in years, he said. I see everything clearly. She nodded. Then I'm coming home. Just a week after Rachel's dramatic exit, a thick envelope arrived at the mansion, delivered by a man in a crisp gray suit. Jimmy opened it at the dining table, still sipping his morning coffee. His eyes scanned the legal letter once, then again. His jaw tightened. Diana walked in, holding Elsa's hand, about to suggest pancakes. What is it? She asked, noticing his expression. Jimmy passed her the document without a word. She read it. Slowly, carefully, then sighed. Rachel had filed for visitation rights, claiming to be Elsa's stepmother and legal guardian for the past 2 years. The letter also accused Jimmy and Diana of fostering an inappropriate relationship that could emotionally destabilize the child. She'll stoop to anything, Jimmy muttered. Diana remained quiet for a moment. Then, if this goes to court, I'm no one. Legally, I'm not family, just a former employee. Jimmy looked at her. Something inside him had already made a decision. The next morning, he took her and Elsa to a quiet park. They walked under the early light, past sleepy trees and scattered benches. Elsa ran ahead with her teddy bear, laughing for the first time in days. Diana looked at Jimmy. You've been thinking. I have. He stopped by a bench, looked her in the eye. There's only one way to protect Elsa and keep you in her life. Diana's breath caught. Marry me, he said. Not as a performance. As protection. You'll be her legal guardian. No court will ever question your place again. Diana blinked, stunned. Are you asking me for real? Jimmy nodded. At first, for Elsa, but also for me. I've been thinking about this since the moment you left. A long pause, then a small, trembling smile. Funny, Diana said. I've been thinking about it too. 3 weeks later, they married in the garden behind the mansion. No grand ceremony. No lavish gowns. Just a small table of guests. Maria, a kind lawyer, and Elsa, wearing a floral dress and gripping her little bouquet with both hands. During the vows, Elsa stood between them, holding their hands like she never wanted to let go. When the officiant finished, Elsa looked up and whispered loud enough for all to hear. Now I have a real mom. No one spoke for several seconds. Not even Jimmy. Then Diana knelt and hugged her tightly. Life after the wedding didn't look much different from the outside. But inside, everything had changed. Diana wasn't just the maid anymore. She was mother, wife, anchor. Each morning, she rose early to make breakfast. Elsa helped fold napkins, still humming, You Are My Sunshine. Jimmy drove her to school, slowing every time she shouted, Look, a cat. Afternoons were for grocery shopping. Diana wrote the list. Elsa picked the fruit. Jimmy pushed the cart, pretending he didn't mind how much they overspent on cookies. Ordinary moments. But to Elsa, they were extraordinary. One evening, Diana helped Elsa sound out words from a book. B-A banana. The girl cried triumphantly. Jimmy clapped. Diana pulled her into a warm hug. You're so smart. Elsa looked up, quiet for a beat. Mom. Diana froze. Jimmy looked over. What did you just call her? He asked cautiously. Elsa bit her lip. Mom. Because I have a mom now. No one said anything. Diana just pulled her in tighter, hiding her tears in Elsa's hair. From that day, Elsa transformed. She smiled wider. She laughed louder. She made eye contact, asked questions, helped classmates, spoke clearly, focused better. One day, her teacher called the house. I don't know what kind of magic you've got going there, she said. But Elsa, she shines. Jimmy looked at Diana across the table. I know what the magic is. But peace, as always, doesn't come without interruption. One Monday morning, Maria opened the front door and froze. She returned to the breakfast table pale. It's Mrs. Rachel. She brought a lawyer. Jimmy and Diana exchanged looks. Elsa instinctively reached for Diana's hand. Rachel swept into the house like she'd never left. Designer coat, dark glasses, perfect lipstick. Her lawyer followed silently, carrying a folder. I'm here to discuss visitation rights for Elsa, she said, helping herself to a seat. Jimmy remained standing. There's nothing to discuss. Rachel's lawyer placed a folder on the table. My client has legal standing. She was the child's guardian for over 2 years. The court may consider visitation under existing step-parent clauses. Diana placed her hand over Elsa's. It's okay, she whispered. Mommy's here. Rachel smirked. What is she so afraid of? I took care of her better than her own mother ever could. Elsa's fists clenched under the table. Jimmy's teeth ground silently. But it was Diana who stood. Calm. Measured. Well then, she said, opening a small case and pulling out a USB stick. Let's revisit that care you gave. She plugged it into a laptop. The audio played. Rachel's voice, unmistakable. If you don't say it, she'll disappear forever. Good girl. Remember, don't tell anyone. The silence that followed was unbearable. Rachel's lawyer looked like he wanted to melt into the floor. Jimmy turned to Rachel, his voice frigid. You manipulated a child into lying. And now you expect us to pretend it never happened? Rachel stood abruptly, voice cracking. She's my child. Elsa spoke for the first time. Quiet but clear. No, you're not my mom. The room froze. You made me scared. You told me I didn't deserve food. Or love. But now I know that's not true. Rachel stepped back. Jimmy pulled Elsa into his arms. Diana stood beside them. We won't let you hurt her again, she said. And with this recording, neither will the court. 1 week later, the court's decision came. Rachel was permanently stripped of visitation rights. No appeal allowed. When Diana told Elsa, the little girl wrapped her arms around her and whispered, I'm not scared anymore. Diana held her tight. Because you were brave, sweetheart. So brave. 10 years had passed since a maid knocked on a bedroom door and met a child who had forgotten how to be heard. Now, on a soft spring morning, Diana stood at the window of their home, watching the sun stretch across the lawn. The backyard looked like a painting, vibrant with life, humming with quiet joy. Elsa, now 17, moved with purpose. Her once hesitant steps had become steady. Her once downcast eyes now met the world without apology. She walked across the grass, her stethoscope bouncing gently against her chest. A white coat hung over her arm. She had just returned from her early internship rounds at the local pediatric center, where she worked with children like the one she had once been. Inside, the house had changed too. Diana had expanded the resilient garden into a full community center. It now included classrooms, therapy rooms, an art studio, and a sensory garden. They welcomed over 100 children every year, some neurodivergent, others from broken homes, all looking for a place that whispered, you matter. Jimmy had become her partner not only in life, but in service. He gave up his board seats and now ran a foundation dedicated to fathers raising children with special needs. The man who once couldn't hear his daughter's silence now taught other men how to listen. And there was someone new. A toddler with wild curls and a laugh like bells, baby Leo. Yes, they named him after Diana's brother. Leo had been unexpected, a whisper of grace that arrived one December night after years of building something sacred from the ashes. Now, at 2 years old, he followed Elsa like a shadow, wobbling in boots too big, always holding a crayon in one hand. Elsa, he called one morning. Show me the colors. Elsa laughed and knelt down. Only if you say please. Please. Good boy. Diana watched them from the kitchen, one hand on her tea, the other resting over her heart. One quiet evening, they gathered on the back porch. Elsa sat on the swing, flipping through her medical textbooks, her hair tied in a neat braid. Jimmy was reading Leo a bedtime story on his lap. Diana sat beside them, eyes closed, listening to the sounds she used to dream about. Laughter, footsteps, the wind through the lemon tree. Mom, Elsa said suddenly. Yes, love? Do you remember the first time you made me scrambled eggs? Diana chuckled. Of course I do. You told me I was smart. I'd never heard that before. Not really. Diana smiled, her voice soft. Because you are. I only said what was already true. Elsa looked down at her hands. Sometimes I think, if you hadn't come that day, I don't know who I would have become. Jimmy looked up. We'd still have found you. No, Elsa said firmly. You didn't find me. You saved me. Diana stood and walked over, pulling her daughter into a hug. And you saved us, too. Later that night, after Leo had finally fallen asleep, drooling on Jimmy's chest, they sat on the balcony, the city lights blinking far in the distance. Do you think it would have worked out this way if Rachel hadn't lied? If the watch hadn't been planted? Jimmy asked. Diana thought for a long moment. I think broken things sometimes show you where the light can come through. He nodded. You sound like one of those Instagram philosophers. Don't pretend you're not quoting me later. They both laughed. Then Jimmy reached into his pocket and pulled out a letter. This came today, from the Ministry of Family and Social Welfare. Diana took it, opened the seal, and read. Her eyes widened. They're awarding us, she whispered. Lifetime recognition for community impact. Jimmy leaned back in his chair, hands folded behind his head. Told you those kids weren't just drawing butterflies. The award ceremony was held in a grand hall in the heart of the city. Banners lined the stage, the resilient garden. 10 years of hope. Parents, children, educators, and leaders from across the country filled the room. When it was time to speak, Jimmy stepped onto the stage, holding Leo on his hip. He looked out over the crowd and paused. My name is Jimmy. Years ago, I didn't know how to help my daughter. I didn't even realize she needed help. I listened to the wrong voices. And then someone came into our home, not with qualifications, not with money, but with love, with attention, with the courage to see what everyone else ignored. He turned toward Diana, who was seated beside Elsa, their hands clasped. She didn't come into our lives to change us, but she did. He looked at Elsa. And this girl, my daughter, reminds me every day that there's no such thing as a broken child. Only children waiting to be understood. He held up the award plaque. This is for all of you, he said. For every child who was told they were difficult. For every parent who thought they weren't enough. And for every person who chose to stay when it would have been easier to walk away. The room rose in applause. Later that evening, as they returned home, Elsa found Diana on the balcony, alone. She sat beside her. Can I ask you something? Always. What would you tell the girl you were, 10 years ago, walking into our house for the first time? Diana thought for a long time. I'd tell her, you're not just here to clean a house. You're here to change one. Elsa smiled. You did. That night, while everyone slept, Diana wandered into the living room. A small drawing sat framed on the wall. It was Elsa's, years old now. 3 stick figures, one tall, one small, and one in the middle holding both hands. Above it, written in crayon, love begins where fear ends. She stared at it for a long time, then turned off the lights, letting the darkness gently settle in, not as something to fear, but as something she had already walked through, and survived, and grown from, just like Elsa, just like Jimmy, just like all of them.